Yankwe. All right. Yadeti father and Adao Kodo Otehin. I'm so Yazana say Edifi Otunfu Katechino Ho. The bra Obibiara, especially how Kodo Otehin Dana Dano. We are very, very delightful, to be with you once again. Every what excuse me. I'm sorry, what Brother Zeko for the Church of Christ, and then also, and that's what Baba can say. Now, every kuma break across the here, I believe there, Obaka Yano, na, I mean, Yako through another number, you always my hono, Obaka and Hona, you see, be together. Here, what the awkward would say him, especially in Yanoma. Would say him almost every day, in what Japan. And at any time, I remember every Sunday evening, piano, it's in chairs, run over here, what Bessa Crum, work at home. That will be done enterprise. They be almost our school, academy school junction, or young quantas, into school junction, or Neko Wim Kakra. That will be done enterprise or what time BBBR, I mean, range from provision, to other the all the condiments and they are available, at competitive prices. Say, I recommend home my home there one to home BBR or school for now provisions, one BBR, one concoction or hall. Now, you are not going to regret, choosing that will be done enterprise as well. What is that trading partner or whatever you may call it. All right. I was walking with saying nah in your baby. I believe there in your baby, so another amount of people would say now, for some reason minimum one is in, but I believe there would say in town so you didn't share Yazama Obibiara Elho. All right. I remember because from Onia Solomenye Janet Mousy. In fact, well, she's my junior sister, by the way. Well, is your ponumu, I believe, PA, right? Physician assistant, whatever. All right, I mean, a bit uncle from one or two be anyway. Well, I don't know what is holding there, but anyway, I'll come home. And I the presentation, you had the brown in terms of boosting and morale, account and who me fancy reader no into wamba until about try the about I mean you can't try that by hen fan yanaka say you mo ama dodo arabia potokasa no one then sase ne or chere ho adwen kakra no yanaka say no mo I believe the ubenya say what that my hen ewo ho the man out say yada obi biara say okoro ahona okoro wote yin hinara. All right, yeah, recap kaka. Last week in I had the Second Thessalonians chapter 2 no. I had the bay. You started even with Second Thessalonians chapter 1 and chapter 2. Chapter 1 you hunde ahuna na wa Thessalonica for no or a Jew for no Act chapter 17 no. Yankopon ka de another Paul catcher no Yankop Christ baba no we be butia da mufu yekao. Our Second Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 6 0. We know that the coming of the Lord and another return of the Lord, or a time or Babano Buchia, who none of here Thessalonica for no, our Yamina. I mean, say, our idea of future return of the Lord, either you are mistaken. Because even at the time, what showed them letter in somewhere AD 51, maybe I know my me, no, Papa, when you read it, there were how did you then? Read yourself into them ancient text, but however, no, at the time of Paul showed them letter, no, you want a Jew for no, here, so no, what Thessalonica, no, Acts chapter number 17, verse, special verse 5, 0, and to them call for Paul's Christ even know about your own now also then I'm a high has an on bed now man or bob bedo one no here Thessalonica Jew from why now we here one day and so on so share our last sure no if you question Second Thessalonians chapter 2 Paul and you correct Thessalonica for no when adwen war the Christ number no do now all correct no you see Paul did not he did not have issue with the assumption of the return of the Lord, another one concept and idea of the nature of the coming of the Lord, but he only corrected the timing. And so, among the two signs there, one share, Mama Century, they being one will do these two signs. Now, no better that indeed the Lord has come. One was apostasy, of course, and why Yehunda and why and Ori in the first century. Galatians chapter 1, verse 6, Yehun Biwo, Ephesians, First Thessalonians, First John chapter 2, verse 18 and verse 19. John said that they went out from so we see that apostasy running its course in the first century. In Ephesians, Second Timothy chapter 4, I believe verse 10, Demas and the rest of the brethren, what they will feel, where because they loved the world in the first century, where one will feel Jesus. So apostasy, which was one of the eminent signs of the return of the Lord, or yeah, and Saint no they did the Christ number, why Benos no recorded in the first century, and many other apostate, in way didn't way home text be brave in the first century. So your baby who be so and a baby who man of sin. The man of sin apostles there otna Teso otna Jerusalem I saw down oh yeah no honda yame. And at the time of Paul showed I mean crowd and the come out sorrow no all the them correction. And also the man of sin no son of prediction, and the man of lawlessness. That my last week get me in the word is lawlessness. And see the main part not Jerusalem I saw down in the first century. You see, these are the two signs also don't take place before the return of the Lord. Another all point to the coming of the Lord. You who there excuse me, in the first century they were there. And this is who will be the man of sin in a hot temple. Another concrom bia bay and a man of sin but now. You see, that is something that you have to figure out. Those who ahuna ukita da me on chebiara or baba no chebiara or baba no. It is one thing also the washe na wo ma hin da me concrom bia no a obayama hono. I believe that Rothschild, the Dusun were tried to overbuild the third temple, especially dispensation of Fono, or believe that was see third temple with Jerusalem war. Into the temple will fulfill the eschatology, another one end time event, through the build, putting up of that building, that is going to fulfill the eschatology. But that is totally wrong because Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 16, 17, and I believe Isaiah chapter 24, also there was said Jerusalem at Asher and it will never be rebuilt. But this Jerusalem temple seeing a bia Jerusalem temple in a bia man of sin ne presence or share there on Chabia Christ Baban was what's name. And I was destroyed the temple in 70 AD. Now when you read Echo First Thessalonians chapter 2 Echo verse 8 and verse 9 Paul can't send be there. The man of sin not concrom be at the time Christ bar or the net brightness or the best said money, right? Of course you kind of brightness on yet accurate word, but proper word now say epiphania, which is manifestation of hidden divinity and that is, hidden deity. So in the context or the return of the Lord against this man of sin not concrom be and so destruction of the temple automatically destroy this man of sin. I mean I hear history kakrano that zealot movement zealot leader I mean, they were chased up to fortress of Masada, now how committed suicide, and see, I mean, it's something that is past and gone. So you cannot have a condition another science fulfilled. And still, after 2,000 years, what a crowd that time the Ghana crowing what do you crew, and Makara or a bar on China or a ban on Hinfa. That's why there was a purpose for which Christ or a bar for a second time. That is to destroy those who persecuted the church in the first century. So this is how we have to understand in a wrap it up on 2 Thessalonians chapter number 2. Now, you can't say be there say after the year 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, you watch 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, because one text be so and also talk about the return of the Lord. No so of casa for Christ and no to do a be no home. And see very, very important there, no so ye bushia. Na dem de bia ye no ye for text na another ye for text na ye din kan ye introduction to ye introduce text in fact by way of building setting settings if you going forward in the coming weeks build on that. So that is what we usually do. So we have to build a foundation, then going forward we yes down or do because in the either ibia kasa Anyway, we quote First Thessalonians chapter 4. First Thessalonians chapter. Yeah, so okay. The other by hina yetasi, ahina yunwi yetasi, ahina yunwi yetasi. See, this is what they do all the time. And Yaboshe and also Otidan Ewoho. I mean, sometimes it goes deeper than my uncle for Kano. They just bright the surface, they put themselves there, and so that the thing becomes not better Jamafi and not about and see that's maybe just the foundation of another foundation to First Thessalonians chapter number 4 no on na yɛbɛyɛ no ɛndɛ na yɛrekɔ hia nyim no yɛbɔhwɛ nyama bebree ɛwɔ dame adze no mu na yɛahwɛ dɛ ɔyɛ adze a wabɛse no kɔ anaadɛ ɔyɛ adze a afi na ɔreba the coming of Christ or the now for about the church band to Baba on them Suwusum Baba that may or the on them Suwusum Norba that means Suwusum will be attended by the sounding of the trumpet in the angels and so I will be but at that time will be the time of resurrection and see what should the many many nara wabema nada few number you see sometimes you can be the man now I be not dream since and I feel some opadiaba some no hurricane another or brother solo about some hurricane because you see we were taught there say when the Christ bar also who there I mean be a woo fifi foam why the skeleton and when I'm able to turn which no in the room I mean also when we are see one honorable ball you also who lake of fire be or two been what that kind of this materialistic eschatology and also you will take place and so long as you who made the day I also legitimate there as a number but so other basis about as a academy as semi way but I tell you there you read this text here well say follow hina ebi binya adwensa kire bi kakra ayin de ma brabazico for the Church of Christ me in there me commentaries you brabazico for the Church of Christ ahema in there ya impose yane view and yane understanding no ya de mama ya kind of text ni and so also tena ho na wa so hwehwem da mo na otinta ayin ya adwena fine yɛbɛtumi akɔnyɛ n'anim sɛ ɛnyɛ nso nyɛ adwene a ɔyɛ by force dɛm na adze no ɔte yɛnka da bi a we know it all another no that is not what we do I mean my na yɛsua adze together dɛm na yɛyɛ ɛwɔ hɔ for all you know na bi a what you've been made to believe all this while no or might not square up with the scriptures see ebi yɛ pense ma there's a possibility there bi a yɛbɔ huma nyama na ten ɛwɔ hɔ so that is what we do babaji koforia no yɛnka yɛ mama yɛn wo da bi a we know it all another bibi them you are at what I'm betting there in we have no problem, with that. Now, the American what we call the Lord descends from heaven. I mean, First Thessalonians chapter 4, the Lord descends from heaven. I mean, it is there in the text. And see, now the text, or what does it teach widely, popular doctrine of rapture because any animals are waji oshimi bere no waji dino another waji oshimi dino rapture no also they appeal to First Thessalonians chapter number 4 na or that form whole basis for dame in church no nti no so ye bohwe there dame na otin another onto them ewo ho na me kai there emre bi na anuanom bi I mean those of yene anuanom bi na watch bibia on rapture ewo First Thessalonians chapter 4 and I'm catching okay, come joining now. Also, I mean, share me views and ideas. Oh no, they be. I mean, we just don't need you. We don't need you at all. Just and I see I've been we demonize them, but I mean that is just fine with me. But eventually they concluded that look, rapture the but the way a dispensation for no we use no wrong. You see what is happening? Meanwhile, just give me chance to explain what is there. Also, no, they be go away. But in their own wisdom, no, they concluded that perhaps channels which is there. I mean, go for but one jeans there, there's a some kind of intermediate appearance of the Lord and maybe final one and be them. But the man anyamatin elho. But the Brabazico for the Church of Christ is there by sure that there's no rapture. Neither there were intermediate appearance view of Christ. No, you're very sure that you do Bible language, to impose it on the scriptures. And so also in church maybe a abortion, but the abortion or no, in the coming weeks, we will examine this text of First Thessalonians chapter number 4, in light of the Old Testament background for that, theophanic appearances of God to show the temple cultus or the temple cultic of this text. Now, I mean, that may text you involve the temple presence of the Lord or a Christ and or banner him. I by the who that me picture no the coming of the Lord in First Thessalonians chapter 4 no or a temple presence or the Lord that Christ or banner him. And you watch any Old Testament background and so background boy me at New Testament now see now people say ultimately because in Matthew chapter number 16 verse 27-28 your Christ was about for everybody on them solution but about for everybody call them on but the chief verse 28 just no kwame so now who would here in the first century who would be in to the Christ baba. I mean, is it over Banahim? And see, the time Christ over Banahim was the time, what they say, Jerusalem. No, I mean, I doubt it is there in Luke chapter number 21, verse 27. I mean, it is there, the coming of the Lord and the kingdom. You see, wherever, maybe a boom who Christ in maybe who now him then, or and see, I First Thessalonians chapter number 4, no, or a picture of the coming of the Lord in his kingdom. I mean, it is just there for you to read. But I there. Adwena starting Adwena I there say across seminary so say Bible college I there what to two hena adwene ma huna watch a church for na ho adwene medam na ye kwa na oda ma hen before wa kwa bokwa na dem na adwene tinti we don't see some of this basics here and other insights here all hey but them the ye ho obobo hen e wo ho ti da ma ye kan no yeah, the bush that's or the church rapture, and that's just the first part one. Yeah, couldn't be breed them, but it's just something that your fortunes, or next week here, next week here by your quantifier sedan angasa ye awodo. Until the bush there no more bush the rapture no so or sedan or no quado be bushim in bushim in park or suru baby another no so or sedan your bush no so I see it. So when you Bible no more Bible language is it what is it rapto right they use the term be rapto hapozo now we're using why the same as rapto no it is never like that but we will delve into it yabokum na ya hwede dem not sing another onto them I mean binum so quote John chapter number 14 because he say baby aba na aba hwim hon until they believe that John chapter 14 so it talks about rapture Matthew chapter number 25 so we believe that also a rapture in the many New Testament second coming of Christ passages I am Kofo, I will believe it any no it talks about rapture. Now your boy shall no so the man not sing another onto them. But I am a Kenny. There before I walk in a punumuno. I am a chair First Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13 to 17, in most parts, before cry and I been well the 18 of the but I'm that some now start of verse 13 or the 17. I see yaba asama ya kan de anan chechira ye ne de esi sai kwaka for text bit there asama osi wo no one abroda our Bible no mo no one abroda Genesis chapter 6 in a 7 the flood na no keke kan wina no our Bible no mo but then read the me text and read the me chapters there or ya ja afi no reba but they read in do ya dibia why then wa baba senoko and I don't know what in no so why I do boom, but then for home fanship. And I recognize audience now and I will at the time now before in soon baby you were Yakupon catcher nowhere there was 7 days in their Sunday you soon be in no our Genesis 7:4 no and canon who is shame there a cajon some church men for home fan share Bible no more. Neither most are in Yana breed, say, I can Bible now, and I didn't want Kashim. And the Adion Kashim, and as neither Jama, and they now Paul or Kadamasam the Chirahin, and I don't buy an answer, they know about Kadamasam the Chirahin, what we call audience relevant. You can Genesis 6 year, you would indeed flood in the bay, but on your Hanasam, it is still in the Bible, because there was a time there. one brother, I don't know who this man is, but offer no, also know a Bible is a yeah, Jesus that yeah, and about the Bible no about that. I'm going to know. I believe Bible me did also but I never be ma on your what on your wasam. Text bit today, Mark chapter 16, verse 17, 18. No, that will also about tenumu, in terms of the manifestation of the home manifestation home concord jumano, ninjuma wa esiafu monuno. Also, also about tenumu or in young hoshi, or bonum a wood. No, so what on young hoshi. I mean, Damakasi Ohui, and the one of about 10 hours or Act chapter number 28, and island of Malta. Paul, abotan ba chechire mira award no mo wo panyina no oda boja no abotan ba fan san but wan ya hwe won nkofo no akoi oye impe biara kwa atasa the spirit was with him or protecting from this harm asema yeka but in the entum gonk use the text no na fa nka da jata hunu bu ma na da baby adancha mo I mean yenya asemi them I was some part of East East Africa. I've been more challenges because they think that they are spiritually nkɔnkɔn yɛ adwuma wɔ ho da wokɔ kada line you find the danchem way more we hon ɛna ade ɛwa in the intum for no fa apply hɔn obutu wanom cyanide obutu makɔ survive cyanide ɛwa meanwhile the margin so wo me da ho na obegye no obusu abotem so ɔnyɛ den ɔnyɛ wo hwe obonom ewudu ba ɔnyɛ wo hwe kɔkɔ no me kenkɔn na eduru ya wɔde hyehyɛ we wɔde hyehyɛ efuyi koko no mbi na ye hwe na ehu na indeed awa so nkonko word na agina bia ye dame dede ahoro wan pom fan kasa ahoro ono ye dede ahoro fan giberish dede ahoro of US na dame kasa ahoro ndey ma woken one ofi by a time when we get to the work of the Holy Spirit now ya bosha dame nyamani na ya hwe na baby ofi be na one ofi be na makasa ya ne working hom konkron wanka bi e wo Pentecost day it's how I believe there ya wadam honhom no I mean condom poison na ya hwe ma obi se ma kuso yi cobra aboten tuntumi bi ana even crampo viper ehutia kafa bi na hwe ado de be ye we whatever you believe possess no so be ye ya as I said these things are in the Bible but my pere can onye hena asam in the what happened? COVID Nansiana on Bonsa and Papa. This is also Mpox and all these things in here. No, let's see what is happening. Paul, Emroko Island of Malta, and what's that with that Yerfu Bay? Now, say Yerba, Yera would debate in our sound Yerba 1 year fasting. One conquer Hebaba, one conquer Bibia, because the spirit was with him. And not manifested with the me a Jumano Yenum. Then they say, how is this like a fun? Obio Yefu, Lipa, in Bubo for the me, crippled the me. I mean, just go to baby ogui. Number one, you clean them out. You can't. It doesn't make any. The fact that numbers 5, what Naaman was son okay then zoom was doesn't mean then there's big what you say show you man that is what is going to happen. No. Or it may be all about for a purpose. The same thing. And a crisis in a man or about for a purpose. I want to win here Thessalonica or and not about for a second time no baby on a cow. Ebiso John chapter 16. Also see also ubusu na butwajo na wiase no that is the okomani world na ho in the first wabasro na maba na ho obohum na wiase wan den wonhum Christ no gaje na obaba for a second time you no obohum na ho wiase no wonhum no na so ewa ha in 2024 Ezra no afi no areba Christ so in that text no also obaba. Now this is what people do. Academic sana no say you are quoting out of context. In a contextual meaning, what account necessary, I don't know where it's say use a Bible group was a seminary bro full contextual meaning and the hermeneutics and about then necessary things matter pause there ya can I better say. What was all these things? I don't know the whole every kuma be whom every kuma be whom some ukwe jaho and every Christ or koi jaho no babano or the apostles in be but nasa ubuhuno. Now, so what had 2024 on bed? That time, where was Ghana as a country? Ghana no equal no hen. I a for them taxi yet my home. And you now, our mighty John 16, no, ye you if your disciples, ye you if your first century disciples, and yet the way at Akashaho, as if the German and then Jesus by house of the Mobaka train. Everybody Jesus or catch there, or quay Jahona, a Brukum wound. Nebukum Buno or son okay, Jahon. Everybody Christ got a mass of the and see. Them principles now, I know you use, my friend, what way hermeneutics no in them interpretive principles no ona na hina ye use ona na ye de dame approach no na de ba First Thessalonians chapter 4 enti buhu na ade no the whole clear you hu film ancient text you hu film na hwen from that perspective no from first century audience no na hwe da sadamad no aba na don bai asema ye ba ha ye kan Exodus chapter 12 embre Moses ogafe nkɔfo yi fi Egypt ɔdze wɔn kɔ Canaan a ɛpo no mu na wɔapaapae bɛbɛn mu na nsu fim ravens mmɔntɔ na wɔabɔtotɔ na adze na wɔrewe na adze I mean ɛnna so yɛka ndam text sɛ Bible no mu because ɔyɛ yɛka dɛ ɔyɛ Nyankopɔn na ɔdeal with a particular nation called Israel titan ya ɛyɛ kan mo de ɔsɔ Israel fo wɔn asam nti ɔyɛ hɛn asam nti ɛbere bɛn ɛna Paul baka dɛ ahuna wo hia Thessalonica fo no Christ be butua won ko no be wa asam ehin fa na ku hia Thessalonica fo no why did you do that ehin fa na ago bia me hia discussion na asam na ya wo double fulfillment message jamawara wo types and shadow no also me do I know that me yeah I know also mo see no it will happen again must from for obi no gada asam for the way this is what they do and the congregants no what no way my mobo thinking that what whoever is lead and whoever is teaching them these things, because they do also learn. But it is never true and it is never like that. But anyway, and in America, that I mean, audience relevance, on the edition, no one I build or any some offended Exodus TV, Israel for Egypt walk okay, or any has some. Or Bible, then to Mukafa, Puidu, then Mumbai. There's no way I would my the no, but in the first century, the same spirit, was with them. No, what was the year that may in your main and some year come into the main common sense. Now, they apply to the main prophecy. No, on a yaba a yada text, so I say the because none of the text, Bible one show more put in this way. It was never written to you, but it was written for you. So we are reading someone's mail. Or you been email now, you been a text message na you can. Maybe I'm going to text with my Church of Thessalonica or Hinzi Sierra. Why so not Thessalonica for no? No. As something what or boy and you enjoy the blessings of the fulfillment of the minimum. But you can Krata Ocho come to Thessalonica for Nayan Canada Jamadina Yanadinde. Let's assume that before 1957, no, Kwame Nkrumah Shaw, name was the command, freedom fighters, and okay, this is what we are going to do. And so we will do this. And also, that declarative statement of making war, is it Palladium, right? 1957, also the declare independence. And the Butumaka for the memo we are still hoping to, attain independence. And oh, yeah, the Wabasanoko, it's a coca for them crat and can there. I'll be oyende, or ya and that's some another Nazi, but oh, yeah, the Wabasanoko. As my yakin, and see, I enjoy the blessings of crime and command one toil, no. On I here enjoy as independent states, capable of doing our own things. And maybe Adama leaders are ones that I don't know. And I mean, just let's leave that to those so-called state administrators, no. I mean, as you may be, we are raw for money. It has nothing to do with data. I feel like a independence beam. When you're dama here, as my yakin. And we enjoy the blessings, the blessings of the kingdom. No, in Shanka, Yemobu no obey them. In Shanka obey them. That means now they were all part of the blessings of the kingdom, and which were held up Christ also until the obey in 70 AD in His kingdom. That is the essence of First Thessalonians chapter number 4. That may attend that event in Hinara. No, on I've been on our way, my 2:16. Obey other than blessings in the year then. And we are now enjoying the blessings of that fulfillment. But then Canada there or a prophecy or a wasam, in 2024. Where was Ghana and where were you? Where were they at the time? Where were you? Everybody Jesus and Paul, but we both them who street, the show. My Luke chapter 13, Jesus no in them Jerusalem num crabs in a whole street or Kayamasa. Where were you at the time? Anyway. And then so Yanshad once my edit no mecano honor nice juma. Dampa no one flooded no hen Genesis excuse me, what is it? Exodus chapter 12 and so no asam a yere kanyen asama no so yere kano and then enti understand asam na yere kano wo and then no ti dam na oten ewo ho nti wo men kan text ne kakra dam American you do no just introduction keke na ye yen shada ye nkrom or just something ebi kakra bi na yere kan nti echi no ye benya abre na ya komi ye ne ye humanya martin I mean ya bompere yankopon for ye yimfa ncha hin enti audience relevance am fa anya adwuma ba kan bible na jama ye wasam apostle bi aso your church at the ultimate Ghana yi it was written for us for our admonition for our learning but we don't read it as if the prophecy no wo me henede because what you come no ye hen asam ewo ho da bia ye maka ma ba ha maka there when Jesus second coming of Christ no oye Jew fu hon asam complete oye Ghana fu yan asam. But the most of us, we will solely rely on the New Testament until we ignore source text, Daniel chapter 7, or try Mahonanum. Daniel, the Masam, no, Daniel 7, or try Mahonanum. Or Honanum Honasam. Christ on them is Wusum Lubano, or Honanum Hasam. Isaiah chapter 40, 40 verse 10, or Honanum Hasam. Oh, you don't have source text, no. In Zebabuhun war, ABMI, First Thessalonians 4, and talk on the Mununkum Baba. You don't even understand what you are reading. And I just am more who can be an call. Pause are some more can be other no. Or yam down quam shafo and the Moses worker or babano no can have some more. He was only reiterating what the prophet and Moses said will come. And here share First Thessalonians chapter number 4. Let's start at verse 13. I'll say, but I do not want you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning those who are falling asleep, lest you sorrow as others who have no hope. Right? Now, they will sorrow or catch one in his absence, persecution of Babomono, also you cry and you sorrow. Or Ubusun, the way Chajo, or Act chapter, John chapter number 16. Now, at the movie, if you, I'm for him, fan come on. Sasha, Krate, your way, another Mayakania, one be so there. Paul, or short Democrat or the Kamahananum, to whom the letter was addressed. Who wrote, he wrote the letter in real time. And the First Thessalonians na yerkano, what away what the Kama Huananum. And the Yasha Huna, what short Democrat and what the Kama Hun. So that they be about chapter 4, no, that's a can be why, and for one Kishim, who are young Huna, and I was Mahono at the time. And this is the First Thessalonians chapter 1, no, verse 1, the Kwanayasha Samuel Kanho. Paul said also Paul, Silvanus, and Timothy to the church of the Thessalonians in God. Now, one of them Paul or Chord to come on to the church of the Thessalonians in God. Now, you can 2024 where you for bonkus a high example because Hana, it's a polio said and about whatever. You for bonkus. The high back there. Paul, if you have also finished in our board in Patra, maybe I was also paying that to the church of the bonkus in God. And that's not bad there. Paul and Kraten or Chok come out, bonkus are sorry. Where were you at the time? Kraten no woman you are Thessalonica from one awesome. Paul or address specific issue. Assemble or also Thessalonica so him Paul address. It's also never far. No mu esuadno na de bobra. But then father na as if the jama you need na Paul would them letter no was a bro. Ewo ho asma ye kan ewo ho yin. Enti Sasha anti there were 3 people in pay basa ho so all together no and the Thessalonica for the letter no was written to specifically to the church na no what Thessalonica ho no. Enwa church na no what Thessalonica no first of all and I watch sure the man don't come out meaning that I don't know woman no or yeah them Thessalonica from wasamo. How did that become your issue? But this is what people do today. They read them, yeah, the way this is Bible no. And not better to the church of Brabazi in God. And I'd not better Jamana than a porch. I must pour ya mumpo muhuneda. Meaning who put those police. Muhu baby or muhun mission and put that. Mission also that Ebia, who would change Nabia, a mission or but was I see the mission that. Also, so I believe this is pronounced. We give thanks to God always to you all. So who were the you? yɛde nase yɛ fi Yankopɔn hɔ yɛde ma ahɔn the church of the Thessalonians, in God. They were the Jew. And so you know, I don't know about what sorry day. Everybody Paul or them or all kind of the we give thanks to God always for you. Thessalonica from the Thessalonians. Making mention of you. I want you know the church of the Thessalonians in God. Making mention of you in our prayers. Verse 3. Remembering without ceasing your work of faith, labor of love, and patience of hope in our Lord Jesus Christ, in the sight of God and Father. So, on your 2024, sorry, but our first century, Paul letter AD 50, AD 51, thereabout. The man saw no at the time, no has some that work at the time. He was talking about, that same church. Okay. Also, refer to the church at Thessalonica, another church of Thessalonica in God, right? That was the church I watched the master was the come on. And the verse 2, also, verse 2, no, also sa bibiara ewo the same and kofunara also we give thanks. So we no so actually ahun we no also Paul, Silvanus, and Timothy, they are the we. In your Sophia, and we no ho. We because of an oncho letter be and come at Thessalonica for no. But you won't go for no at the time of we. Also for we give thanks to God always for you the Thessalonians, for you the church of Christ at Thessalonica. We making mention of you in our prayers all the time. Paul bon pay no bo wa sorry din wom. Obo e bonkus wa sorry wom no obo ne din wom. Another brother for the church of Christ. Paul bo his din wo. The man pai bo mu. Nti aso ka je the man yan wo ye den. Or is dealing with specific people at particular time, particular place, and for a purpose. Asema yer kan yen. And the other approach here, look at 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. A bonus as no mood the whole domain power. So nothing has changed. And the verse 4 no, you share verse 3 and 4 no say. Ada your audience relevant because 1 Thessalonians chapter number 4 no or academy as some us we who are alive and this and that on the year share hono. And see verse 4 no also making known also no verse 3 also there. You can verse 3 right. Your love, your hope, and stuff like that we have mentioned it. Now, verse 4. Knowing, beloved brethren, your election by God. Okay. Now, so in that case, they were in that city. Paul, Paul, Silvanus, and Timothy, they were in the city of Thessalonica. When you are discussion about the tongues of the Lord. Okay. Oh, I mean, the monk of Weber say, "Oh, show them now when you over curtains of the Lord." But at that time, when you the monk of no church now what Thessalonica no when you over car Yankopon ho asam ho. I believe I can Acts chapter number 17. I can the dona the make sana yeden or ho or kai ewo ho, right? So there were people there. I mean, obi butuma afre. Maybe I was trying there. Ebra Paul Silvanus. And Timothy, what about now? Sorry, Dema, or in Baba Kayam Samoho. Ewo 020 6685 271 020 6685 271. I mean, a friend I trying that the me breed the me deity Paul na Silvanus and Timothy. What about my sorry, Dame? No one by discuss it. The master no. Then these are the people as long as you can know or your audience. It's all about audience. And these are the people who are for you. And to try in a bra. What both over was so them now, you but the kind of uncle on us some ewo. As my year can ever high. And see, but you're about to prove there indeed. What first century, no, you're about to prove there indeed. What first century, no, and I want call for a while. Paul and a Silvanus and a Timothy, no, what car, Yanko Pano has some no, what the children. So they were among them. Right? Our Acts chapter number 17. I believe there or yada ya can before Act chapter number 17 no verse 1 to the bana. You what you prove there and pa and then kofu bi ho Paul no one time or can da me yankopon na asam no or the chira. Also, when they have also Act chapter 17 verse 1, also now when they had passed through Amphipolis and Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica, where there were a synagogue of Jews. And see, you that Paul na damu kwa fwe saying, "What me fi Amphipolis, our Apollonia, wa go what me fi Abra na oba bonku so." And I will try to Togo no Bagano. Why ancient city and all at the time. I watch short crat and all that come ancient city be an all at the time. What the address in Yamabium. No who be at the Mazi Baba was some hell. I baba for Texas and I do want Babashim and I hear we who are alive. Do you know we who are alive in a text? Who are these people? Ahina Yatasna Yabakano Yaba remaining. Who are these people? I don't know ever can we know. We who are alive, Eden never can walk at that time now. Oh, my member over Perugia. One wall, Eden never do whom baby shame. This is what people do. About this, I can Genesis 6 and 7. Nanka can a offend Exodus chapter 12. Now, so I can a count what you fear you what won't cry, you know. So that's what Bible no. But this are ancient city and no at the time. I mean, you can't do that. You see, we ignore audience relevant altogether. And so I didn't buy there be a postpone all about on chair, all about on chair beer. So we be on them TV also in 2025 or baba yareshe or baba on chair or baba business to 2028 the cover akeke yareshe. Because you see we put our you can a business down also there yes na work out on na wabe on na wabe on na ojinahui. Yes, because 2000 years on na wabe. I mean damn na confirm akwa. Also, Paul, as was his custom, went into them and for 3 Sabbath days, reason with them from the scriptures. And to Paul, the munko free, and all what them Jew from one synagogue, since I will original Jews from Boho, our prophet, Bible no Jew from Bibia. Paul Crow, no, I hope when Jesus in Pointy, na the munko free, na account in the Jerusalem as I do one quack at the Kusun Damahon. I also want Jesus in Pointy. And so when you might be born to them because they know that they are fake. They know that they are fake. They are not Bible Israel. These are the ones who quite dating. I want to they are not they are one and baby we be whom baby on in them. And to Paul or Crow, no you cook I do a Bible no for 3 Sabbath day. Manka bra a Sabbatarian so Paul Bom house them or you baby did me as me explaining and demonstrating that Christ had to suffer and rise again from the dead and saying, this Jesus whom I preach to you is Jesus Christ. Right? So in other words, now gospel no has some noise or catch who know you did a man and come on no. You see, as some year can know, and at that time, Paul or church or the Mukronumu, I believe Macedonia in Greece. Okay, that is why in the Greek word and war honor because it was some ancient Macedonia in Greek. In the verse 3 but I'm not kind of massam also prominent Greek folk and Jew funi bi or GD na one away than what for me I saw no ewo hono at the time that particular time that particular place particular people not for particular people yenyim at the time na ma no wo ho mesa ahina in the yegidi there Paul Silvanus Timothy ubanya aso dem obaka yankopon asam kire a friend kire na ekọ 02066 85271 na ehu hawa say etume kire obo we da na ocha damadi oyewo ho oyewo asam prophecy no wo no yewo da ye hweyim do baba ewo ho I know the enti na mano no mu de ho gentleman who ha bojo call him by okay ye hwe there say biba friend wa ye ya eba da ma ya aka no da ma na otin ewo ho and also there now. So that is the time setting for the event at the Paul to the Thessaloniki Council. Now, hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Yesterday, fantastic.
But your ebana aya no ntentam because time baba ebenya eba na akado ne day and then answer and wo bay yehwe audience relevance nta ba ne da ne na answer mu na Paul na Silvanus Timothy na oba ma so asema ye kan ebia wie ye de a time but ho na aye ono so yin de or a special eya yebo ya to for this morning ye de answer specific question e wo ho nti dam na otin wo ho nti onua no dam na yamati also there you film because the Major Kono on shutdown far here no question no just hold on. I mean hold on kakra. Na time no boso na edini na da ye daba. And at the time no yer kano ewo hono I mean at the time no in that Act chapter number 17 no yeah I mean Paul Israel funa Jew funa no ho na one James no what's there I mean what tried and go back to Paul na why na basabasa na Paul or Jason who Jason no a part of asori na wo ho na wo ye ho basabasa no I mean what persecuting no ka ho enti ma oba wo man there I mean what finding means be a what the protect Paul e wo ho enti chi moye an there asama charges are we hu Paul na what watching that me Jason and Kofu what you company for him there. Paul ya ka ho asemi. Paul da me Kofi da me Paul ne Silvanus na Timothy wa da ne wiase nyinara ebutu ewo ho. Na wa cheche da ohin bi so ewo ho a wo fa na abade Jesus. And see at that time so na we him there. What's the Caesar so pe na wo him do ya ho na ken wo ho. And at the time what sure da me lete na ohin o no another Caesar or friend Claudius Caesar. And the Claudius Caesar not all at the time, right? I don't think that and they were the Claudius Caesar no reign. Another yen reign a President Akufo-Addo no. And today we just have nothing to do with my underworking as some working with him. Damn Claudius Caesar, he was on a year ambrado at the time. So a first century as some another day and a year can have them nothing. We are not saying that Bible no or irrelevant another who here. May can there a who here, but send you ma or ye hen asam and send you ma wa for feel we. And to that don't the cocker shema, meaning I didn't babe wasam. One troll, I don't one farm more, another one drum or do them bear wasam. I mean, in terms of prophecies, no woman. No. The man as some America, ho, and Yanti, Nina, ho. And to my kind there, these are the men call free, and our ho at the time, walk around, watching, watchma, na warrior the men in church, ho in the first century. At that time, no, and a umbrella one of Claudius Caesar. And one or for a particular people, particular place, time, and for a purpose. The man not are unfit into any of 2024 hybrid ade. And so you just cannot pick up the scriptures now and for whom mention na nkra I feel no about. Meanwhile no so all the science ni hinara no wa fulfill long ago. Science na all day and banner no science no wa be wie de dado. Ebe him na ebo hu man of sin no man of lawlessness ni him na ebo hu no. Whananum na persecute Thessalonica for no. They were the Jews. Act chapter number 17. The monk of Vina Paul's that young Christ been we put you on a cow. Or we put you on a go as well they be doing the Muslim way keep a Muslim damana. I mean for what reason? Damana didn't say I will. And the audience relevance. Damana didn't know Yerka I will ha. And when here pa I will ho. And say Dama Yerkano. Paul obviously at the time Nero, Claudius Caesar no reign, at the time. Until charge Paul for insurrection because what challenge Caesar ne na hints and any reign there war hin be so house offering Jesus at the time. Until on into said them Act chapter number 14 Act chapter number 4 First Thessalonians chapter number 4 verse 13 now. As some Paul can honey, but I do not want you to be ignorant, brethren. Who one of these brethren concerning those who are fallen asleep, lest you sorrow as others who have no hope. Right? Into the time now, all Kadama Samano, and a Thessalonica for no in Yanomino, in a Binuma then. in a binum wewu ewo and what that you, right? You and you know hono on for I mean now in 2024, but or the Tassonai Council, no, the church of the Thessalonians in God. And when you are not falling asleep, no one some now or a kind of this is just by introduction. See, so specifically, them audience specifically, and particularly refer to them people, and what has those who were living during the days of Claudius Caesar. The monk of one was some year king. Claudius Caesar one I want to at the time, in the first over 2,000 years as some and a year king ever him. It is a verse 14 now. No so or can't send me ever verse 14. No, First Thessalonians chapter number 4. We are just running over. Going forward in your book, verse 14. No, I say, for if we, so who are the we? Paul, Silvanus, and Timothy. I don't see how we know at the Obabe we are Enquanka Church Thessalonica for Assembliara, but specifically, at the time, these people were there. For we, I mean, it could be broader perspective about to all the apostles and all the saints in the first century. For we believe that Jesus died and rose again. Now, the same thing in the word preaching or Paul or church and or Acts chapter 17, the same gospel. Rose again, and even so, God will bring with him those who sleep, in him. So it's the same people referring to the same audience, at the same time, in the first century. So those people were still with Paul at the time. Just there, also there for this verse 15, First Thessalonians chapter number 4, verse 15. I say, for this we say to you. So who are the you? Who are the you? The same people. I want to what I say during the days of Claudius Caesar. No, they were the you. And that's what I'm kind there. We know Paul Silvanus and every band over where him. I understand that Bible no is still relevant, but my year kind there, and you may be more on your wasam. As my year kind. Right? And so we enjoy the blessings. You do to your hopeful. But we don't read it and can as if the Yamaro woman feel no about just because they're a Christian and use the Bible needs in it. I say in that case, no one now one time and I think I mean you have to put yourself there. But I have to be it's the same how I treat prophecy, the same common sense in a period about fufu no so na and also for we say to you. Also for this, so they were the Silvanus and, it could be all the apostles, those teachers in the first century. We say to you, because Peter, also the Paul, or so Troll, Democrat, any bit the bra, or the bra saw no in the first century. So what your be, or the in 2 Peter chapter 3, I believe verse 16, the 15, 16, I mean, we know could be all the teachers in the first century. For we say to you by the word of our Lord, that we who are alive and remain until the coming of the Lord will by no means precede those who are asleep. We who are alive. So who are the we? We know to the church of the Thessalonians in God. They are the we. They are the, there's the pronoun, right? There's the we near pronoun, right? So let's see the now, anamubwa. Let's see, we who are alive and remain until the coming of the Lord, will by no means precede them. So this is present tense because at that time, we who remain. So they were there. They who remain. So it was something that they were one of our expecters in their days. All the way in the verse chapter 1, verse 7 to 10, Paul catch on there. Some of them will be alive until the Lord returns. It's already when you that down. And every cause that will be said, and I said, I'm not that. I'm not hearing you. I'm not waiting. What will happen to them? That is the resurrection. Now, every day, the monk friend will go paradise. If you paradise no aba kingdom no mu no Jesus is a bra wo bobu Jerusalem aten ebro bubu Israel 10 ebro be say Jerusalem 10 ubu say Jerusalem ye bra the menu anom na ugu paradise ubi fiwo na waba kingdom mu Jesus na ne numa asamo now there's a Jesus can't say yento because how are you what church in there also you hunde adaka do bube mo ni nemu bupo nti you hune ne de ma Jesus can also do to baby abadin tin ambra Thessalonica vo ka de uji di the Jesus wa abada don we miss Paul there na abadin tin ye huna adaka do bube ye huna lake of fire bi o ye huna Jesus bi na mususu bi do oreba we miss adam nsam ni hinara because when they understanding of the concept the idea and the concept of the nature of the Lord, is different from Mahi Woda Church Hinindi. Into so Oyanda, Anka a Thessalonica for Bibi support there, and a Damadan on Uhun Uhunde you wahen, Abadinta Paul one Kadamasam, Paul or Endorsi, one the concept of the nature of the return of the Lord. A corner cries for that, Paul or G2, but time and all the Mahon, or time and all church on Mohun, 2 signs are or the Christ at the Baba. The 2 signs is a book. Bia no wahen man of sin in hwana man of lawlessness on hwana last year church previous in church the mean paying ara Elijah Ben Simon he was in the temple at that time proud to the destruction he was there I mean and hana we na don't have this is what they do we because they agree on the we of course but we is not your we one or kasa waha Paul one or yon kasa Thessalonica fono abasa no kasa from Christ na asam na Christ number one asam or dan obey what the Paul no yon kasa no that is not way I don't think that's the way to go all right this is yade opinion of friend chibutu my friend na ebisa wo question or because a friend bring edru I'm the one that make attempts then ka ebe chere Paul na Silvanus and Timothy okowa obaby obowa so de ba menhu ndam no some ma odi film but she said you have the time to talk about whatever you wanted to say. It's 02066852271 02066852271 of course mo kwan content crow hand there but no I'm menye Janet will have Janet Mousy of superannuation or superannuation. All right, Jeffra. While there was a be another contribution, whatever you have, and you'll be Juma Ewo. All right, team. The money Ewo 02066852271. I'm not so it talks about we who are alive and remain, right? Now, the Makasana question, the Makasana or elliptical statement, right? Ellipsis, or the Makasana, and what ellipsis saying there. Like sometimes what you phrase bifi kasabim so that mama akankano why simple na why easy zama ho nti say hwe study them text now verse 15 the typical elliptical statement ewo ho nti say yahwe ne import na yahwe no for ma what you film ye de be shema ade no be ye there we who remain alive and remain we who remain alive and remain alive, right? That would be the import of that statement. And say showing there, the Thessalonica some of them will be alive until the Lord returns. We, who are the we? Together all of them, some of them will be alive. You see, the we know when 2024 are some more. Oh, yeah, so those one who them what say Claudius Caesar at time or Claudius Caesar at time of Claudius Caesar no reign or Rome no. These are the people no who at the time. We in the first century, right? They will be the one to to see that. That may kind of about the whole first one or specifically for a specific for specific Assam or and see I don't know a general I would man I pay the cano modern fre na yehuma yamatin ho 102066852271 ekana another fra ni hinara no yebetwa yebejwa na yenyo I mean mo also no also aka na hinara yesua ade ho waka just 2 minutes according to my time just 2 minutes until ho akonya there fra just introduction to the text into your borodo, but going forward in the delve na Old Testament background sa wakara obi nam si wisu mereba dam kasa na ase kyerɛn then obo be then I bought all the temple typologies no and dam time statement na azia you bought ni hinara you bought Exodus you akwa dam temple mountain another cosmic temple no when the Lord mbre yakopon ba sena you bought them hina going forward no ebe hu dey Paul ni idea motive no e wo 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 no when okokinya dam idea no and I want to sure come out one day they had no problem, understanding what Paul was, saying. But I mean, I would also you can na ya atase. That mean identity. We who are alive is those who were there at the time. Yes, 1 minute. 020668527 Frena yendin komo ewo ho. Enti dama ye kan ye 1 minute ye fan hwe 1 Corinthians 5 asam kakra bi wo ho na yanko hinanyim ewo ho. So okasafa we who are alive and remain oka ho asam ewo ho. Enti 1 Corinthians chapter 15 verse 5 and also there and verse 4 and also that he was buried and he rose again the third day according to the scriptures. Now the same gospel now Paul no preaching, and that he was seen by Cephas, then by the 12. Okay. Now verse 6 is that after that he was seen by over 500 brethren at once, of whom the greater part remain to this present. And see, to this present, present no or 2024 present. Another, later we're trying somewhere mid 50s or late 50s. At least one could beyond AD 60. But also about the greater part of them remain to the present. Pause there. We who are alive and remain. No, the same audience. The same as the monk of no kind of massam now for one no. Because in Christ in your own if you no, young can who be, who Jesus be, where you know one vantage and there, but also greater of them remain to the present, but some have fallen asleep. And as my Paul come of 1 Thessalonians saying that those who are falling asleep, then you will by no means precede those who are falling asleep. So the same people, the same audience, and all that they saying in the first century audience, one has some and a year can ever hold. Here the I bear ever hold. Here I bear ever hold. Brabadi Kufurudia Church of Christ and a year can say ever hey. But yeah, that's what we call audience relevance. That's a there. For sure, come a church be that existed in over 2,000 years ago. And at the church no why the church no when you be. Now some so what kind of woman no yan some of for one who are when you that quando than all but poor among all the assurance that some of them will be alive before the Lord returns. Also we who are alive and remains. One all of them will die. And see, them conference, all of them have died. Meaning the fulfillment, in terms of the return of the Lord, also occurred in the first century. Yeah, them not in war. Them not identity ever. And say, yeah, the best here, Brabadi Koforudia Church of Christ ni, and I can say, I mean, boy, next week, oh yeah, me private bar na, yeah, the part 2 no, yeah, that by your personal lines ni,